What's happening, man?
What's up, dude? How are you doing?
Wonderful. How's everything on your end?
Good, man. Just got done from the weekend. A little football, a little Super Bowl. How you holding up?
Listen, I should be asking you that, man. Your Seahawks won.
Life is good. Life is real good.
Oh my
Got my
God.
voice back today.
I can't believe it. You guys found a way to pull it off, and I'm sure you're more than ecstatic.
Over the moon, dude. Hell yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, listen, this has been a long time coming. I think we've been talking about doing this since like what, October?
A long time.
Okay.
A long time.
Okay.
October.
I had to see it through this year, if I'm being honest. um, well, look, we have the perfect double feature set up for tonight. Um, and I know this took a little bit of going back and forth on movies that we should kick this off with for the double feature series, but I figured there's no better starting point than two iconic modern horror films, When Evil Lurks and Hereditary. So before we get started, I got to ask you, what is your relationship with either of these movies? What was it like seeing them, back when they first came out? Did you see them in theaters or did you wait for a physical media release? Like, give me the lowdown, man.
Yeah, so for Hereditary, I went opening night in a really small theater. It's called the Bijou. It's like kind of like a little, maybe 50-person theater. It's kind of like a little, like a boutique theater, and watched that opening night. My wife was kind of falling asleep, and then the movie shifts, and then she was like, "That's the scariest thing I've ever seen." Right? When Evil Lurks, I had to catch it on streaming, but two excellent movies were covered.
Oh, I'm so excited. So, Hereditary, I did not get to initially see that in theaters, and then I feel like I made it up for myself later on when they were playing it in IMAX, which was 10 times scarier seeing it that way. You heard
Man,
everything. There were sounds that I didn't even know were like featured in the film way back when I initially seen it, or even when I watched it at home, and you hear everything. So that experience is very memorable. And then for When Evil Lurks, I had been hearing just how well this movie was doing, within the horror circle and within the community. And I went by myself for this one. I knew this was a film that I felt like I was going to have to go solo to. couldn't convince anyone to go see this, but um, man, the buildup of dread, just how uncomfortable, unsettling the movie is. Um, I don't know, man. It's really hard to try and top an experience like that.
in the theater when Evil Lurks, I can't even imagine. I just watched it again today to kind of refresh. Seen it 3 or 4 times, and it's still effective even at home in the daytime. It's like, damn, this is a movie.
Totally.
Love it.
And we've got Steven joining us. What's happening, man? Happy to have you here. All right. So, well, look, I don't want to waste any time here. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to delay this anymore, but we've got to kick it off with When Evil Lurks.
I'm down. Let's do it.
We've got the second sight release here, an incredible box set that they put out more recently, and I feel like that this gives this film the love that it truly deserves. I wish more people were, I think on this movie. I feel like it is definitely scary, that's for sure. So let's break it down, man. Let's get into this. So, When Evil
How do you?
Lurks.
Sorry, really quick. How do you
Oh
like
yeah,
that second sight compared to? I've got the. I first bought it on Blu-ray before the 4K came out, and then I think I gave that to Darkroom Reviews because he's like, "You got an extra one?" So I just sent it to him. But the studio release, the transfer's still fucking damn good.
oh it is.
So
Yeah.
what's the second sight? It's got some art cards and stuff in it. And
Yeah, you've got the booklet with it, original art obviously on the outside, and I just really, just I think that they gave it like the prestigious treatment that I feel like that this film deserved. I was not really like shocked that Second Sight was putting this out, but I was pleasantly surprised because they never fail to surprise me that way. Um, well, look, without further ado, let's dive into this. So let's start by saying obviously there's going to be spoilers with the either of these films that we're going to be covering tonight, but I got to ask you, what scene scared you the most?
I mean, the goat scene is pretty intense. I think that one really lives in a lot of people's head, where she takes the axe to the face and she just kind of keeps doing it, and it gets slower and slower. She's kind of like falling into the grass there. That scene's intense, man.
Yeah, and it doesn't stop either. It's unsettling. I think that the way, especially there's like very key sequences in here that just get under your skin even after you've seen the movie. If I had to think of one, we were talking about this last night when we were recording. We did a casual video store conversation for Beyond the Blood, and we were talking about the 1991 popcorn movie. This is
Right.
obviously not in that same realm, but we were talking about the dog sequence in here, and that is something that I think will forever haunt me for the rest of my life, just with how uncomfortable and unsettling, and just that they're, especially when I was seeing it in theaters, something bad's gonna fucking happen.
They keep showing it, like they keep going back to the dog. You're like, something's going on here, dude.
The I think if I remember correctly, the argument starts escalating. I already feel
Mhm.
uncomfortable. I feel like I'm the child, right? I'm having to watch this fight unfold in front of me, and it is as soon as it happens, it snaps just like that, and it's not good. It's not good, Um, yeah, I mean, okay, so do you think who would have survived longest in real life? Do you feel like some of the protagonists that we're following, or do you think that there was like certain side characters that you think maybe had a better chance at trying to come out on top? But I don't really feel like this is a very positive ending. But
There's nothing positive.
it's like all it's completely doomed from the get go.
Yeah, it's just bleak, just dread. I mean, I actually kind of like, was it Ruiz in the beginning? Just because he's got his pregnant wife there, and I feel like he's trying to talk logically. He is a little bit like get off my land kind of guy, but
Yeah,
I was kind of pulling for him in the beginning of the movie, like, oh, maybe he's seen this before, or because you can't pull for Uriel the demon, right? Because he's just, yeah, crazy
no,
effects.
yeah, no,
I
no.
have a
Yeah,
hard time. Yeah,
I don't think you want to root for him.
probably not.
um, Man, it's interesting because I mean, what I think that this film does so incredibly well is it takes the possession subgenre and really flips it on it like on its head. Um, I mean, it's almost like folklore, like an urban legend of what goes on. Obviously, within the community, they're very aware that this is a thing, and they, I think, to a certain extent, treat it with like, what would you consider, like some level of respect,
Yeah, it's
boundaries, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of like a known in the community. We don't really even learn what a cleaner is. We're maybe considering them kind of like an exorcist character, right? Like
Hmm.
um, a Father Marin, if you will. But you're kind of hoping that the cleaner is going to be somebody badass too while you're watching the movie, because everybody knows this kind of tradition, cycle, things that happen, and you're kind of like, what happens on the island? Cobras. You get all these weird, like folklore is a good way to put it.
Yeah, and obviously we've seen countless movies that have tapped into this. I would say, I mean, what would you probably point to? The Exorcist is probably the mainstay when it comes to what set the template for this style of movie to a certain extent. But what I loved about this is that it's so refreshing to get a different take on it. We're in a foreign place. We're really just trying to uncover like what exactly is going on. Um, and I think that there's like a little ambiguity that's left with this film, where I don't feel like we need all the answers necessarily. Um, so I mean, did the jump scares work for you in this film? I mean, there were like, sporadic throughout the movie, but did you feel like it worked? Was it effective?
I think that the dog dog jump scare is definitely effective, even though you're kind of like building to something like we talked about, where the girl's there and she's like kind of caressing the dog and flipping around the dog and the argument's getting louder. But then when it actually happens, and that's like is that a mastiff? Huge dog, and just
Yeah.
takes her in that jump scare, and you're like, holy crap, dude. Um, I got a complicated history of that. That was my first YouTube strike, was using I used the scene in my review, and they did not like that. And I was like, well, it's in the trailer, right? So
Yeah, right.
that jump scare is great. There's not a whole. It's not really jump scares. Maybe the mom when she's kind of eating the child's head, I guess you would say. That's pretty intense. Where he's kind of slowly creeping up on it, and then as she's like walking all still, to do like something's going on. How did she even get in there? There's almost a jump scare in the bedroom too, where the grandma's kind of like sleeping and it's kind of slowly panning, but he does such a good job with the music and everything in this movie. It's uncomfortable the whole time.
Oh, absolutely. And we got Stacy joining us. Stacy's asking, what movie production design is better, Batman 89 or Inception? Wow, those are wildly different films.
Going nostalgia with this one, going Batman. Even though Inception's crazy, I still
Yeah,
think Batman's one of a kind, iconic.
I would have to go Batman. Reason being, it's the Tim Burton Gothic design. It's so critical to how that movie works. Almost like a character, on its own, essentially. I mean, for both that and Batman Returns, it feels very much ahead of its time, and I think that definitely falls more in line with the Batman character and Gotham City.
Yeah, it's sick.
And then Stacey was also asking, what's your favorite movie scene on a subway?
Ooh, that's a good question. When I think subway, I think like Midnight Meat Train.
Oh,
That's probably one of my favorite subway scenes.
I'm trying to think. Wasn't the King of New York? I'm trying to think. Wasn't there a scene in the subway takes place in that? Pretty sure.
I think so. Is that Christopher Walken on the subway? Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
Maybe I could even throw into the mix Predator 2. One of your favorites.
That's great.
Yeah, that's a subway ride that I would not want to be on.
No.
All right. And we got Alexander joining in. What is up? Happy to have you guys here. And we got Eli joining us. What is up, my friend? Thank you so much for hanging out with us. This was definitely last minute. We finally got, awesome. we definitely made this happen very quickly, and hopefully it's the first of many. And Eli said, don't forget to slash that like button, sub to both of these awesome channels. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it. All right. So are there, okay, because I think sound would be integral for either of these films on some level. Did you feel like that there was like a scary sound that you would pinpoint in When Evil Lurks?
Yeah, and When Evil Lurks, I was kind of taking notes when I was rewatching it today. There is this kind of like tribal, I mean, there's cellos and stuff and kind of like traditional, I don't know if I would call it like Hispanic or Latina music, but there's this like thundering kind of sound that's coming with the lightning and stuff. And then when it's starting to get to those cello builds, it's very eerie, and it gives it like this gravity that something is coming, I think he does such a good job with it.
100%. And that is, we got Pablo Fu, who is the composer for this film. I feel like it's very like ambient sounding, definitely plays to the strengths of this film for sure. Let's see. So did you feel like the evil, and obviously, I mean, it's kind of open-ended, but did you feel like it was more like human, supernatural, or both, like a combination?
I mean, I think it's, it's supernatural, kind of like getting into the humans, and it's weird how like just the animals are definitely more susceptible, where they're just smelling clothes and they're like, oh my God, like all of a sudden, whether it's a goat or whatever, the dogs. I kept thinking that it's definitely supernatural, but it's so strong that it can affect anybody. And then also saying that the kids are like drawn to evil. It says that multiple times. The evil loves kids and the kids love evil. And I was like, that's an interesting take.
And scary too. I mean, I think that this is, would you say, more of like a grounded take for this type of like possession film? It feels like basically this could happen. I mean, somewhere in the world.
Yeah, and I like how they're not really going through different timelines, and it feels like it's present, but all of the trucks and the vehicles are older. The cell phones kind of work, but it feels like it could happen anywhere, and I thought that was super cool. Yeah, definitely grounded.
Oh, so creepy. Let's see. So, how did you feel about the pacing throughout? Did you feel like it was slow, too fast, just right for a film like this?
I think it's just right. I think because of the music, it just kind of builds on itself. Within the first 10 minutes, you've got like crazy gore. You're introduced to a demon. You find a half like cut up body in the woods, right? All of a sudden, you're getting the family members, please don't kill it, but get it away from here. So you're kind of like, we don't know what to do. Then they lose the demon in the first 20 minutes. So I don't feel like it's really too
Yeah,
slow. I think people have a hard time with foreign films, and that should really be what we hammer home to the people out there is you
totally.
gotta watch foreign films. It's in Spanish. You're gonna pick up some of the words anyway.
Yeah.
This is a film that if you just let it take over you, you can't be doing stuff on your phone because if you're not fluent in
Mhm.
Spanish, you'll miss really important stuff. So you gotta put your phone down and just watch a good horror movie once in a while. And this one fucking rules, dude.
I loved the theater experience for this just because you had to be dialed in. It's not obviously, you don't have your phone out, but it's nice to just be dialed in. You're paying attention. There's like that extra layer of detail that goes into it when, you have to be focused in on the subtitles throughout so you actually know what's going on. Um, but it is definitely something, even if you're watching at home, it's not, just make sure you have your full attention on this because I feel like the payoff is definitely worth it for this
100%.
movie. Um, and was there like a certain setting for this film that creeped you out the most?
I didn't, there's only a few settings, right? Because you're kind of in multiple houses, and I'm guessing Argentina because that's where the filmmaker's from. But
Yeah.
I thought that the first house was the most effective because it's just this Uriel demon kind of like laying on the bed, and you can't get it up. Like it's literally just like a ball of pus, they call it, and I thought that was super effective. When they go to the kind of school stuff at the end, that's kind of a cool setting where there's stuff buried underneath. But I think that
So creepy.
yeah, when they're just in these kind of like kind of rural houses that are just kind of out there in the middle of nowhere, that's a better setting that I think than
Yeah.
when they come back into town and you're like, we gotta get out of the city. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it takes away that almost that isolation threat that you would have. I mean, the further out you get, I feel like you're, for any of these, like any of these people that live in the surrounding town, I feel like they're more susceptible to this happening. And then, obviously, I mean, the whole dog incident that's definitely, happens within the town, but still, nonetheless, and it's just it. I just remember like the scene with Uriel. It's just so vile, gross. I can only like I can only imagine how bad that room smells.
anytime he even like moves, like this like yellow green slime exorcisty kind of like this pus is falling out of his mouth. It's and you they zoom in on all this sores and you're just like, how is this even happening? It's just it's bizarre as shit, man.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And then Eli mentioned, he said, it's crazy how fast the Ghost Face vodka is sold out. Did you get your hands on that?
I missed that. I missed the ghost.
It
Was that
came
a
and went
thing?
so quickly.
I'm gonna look it up really quick.
while
Ghost
you're
face vodka.
while you're looking into your next investment, Stacy is
From
asking,
Germany. Okay.
said, I highly enjoy this movie. What was your favorite performance?
Actually kind of really liked. Is it Jaime, the other brother? I thought that he felt a little more vulnerable because he's got like cartridges or bullets like that he's kind of like looking at, and they're falling over sometimes. Is he going to use one? Does he have mental health issues? The father, like the more lead character, I guess, Pedro, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
He's a great actor too, but I felt like the brother was like I could have spent more time with him because he just seemed like he doesn't have the children, but he's still just as invested. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting because for this film, I don't know if you picked up on it, but it feels like all these characters in some way are like flawed. They don't feel like squeaky clean individuals. They seem like they're very, they have their own problems. And I think that there's also kind of that sense of like, we were talking about it being a more grounded take on the possession subgenre, but I think it made it more of like that human element that you could kind of identify at least with one of the characters in the movie.
Yeah.
Um, and did you feel like the backstory of like how the possession happened, did that work for you, or did you feel like it was a little confusing?
I mean, I think that they left it kind of open ended and ambiguous on purpose, to be honest, because like we're hearing about this cleaner and we hear there's a timeline for the cleaner and the mayor wouldn't bring it in. Maybe there's a cover up. I think they just leave the audience like asking a lot of questions as the movie's going on, and
Which
then
I love.
yeah, that makes you a little more invested. So when you finally meet Myrta at the end, you're like, I don't think this was the cleaner. Like maybe it was a love interest. Really, the only background info we get is there's a restraining order on the lead character, and he can't see his kids. And it's been 4 years, and he just shows up, strips down naked. We should probably talk about that's kind of an awkward breakfast. And then we're just kind of left like, what the hell is going on here? He's just going to take the kids and yeah, so I think just keeping it so open-ended about how it all started and what's going on, the backstory, I think that's actually a strength of this film for sure.
Well, and I mean, I'm sure you and I have talked about it. A lot of like, more modern horror films, I feel like that they definitely over explain things almost to a fault. And fortunately for this film, I think it gives us enough answers throughout the film without giving us too much, right? It's like strikes that perfect balance. But, um, I was going to ask you, speaking of which, so Damien Rugna, director of this film, had you seen this film first or had you seen Terrified before this?
Yeah, I was on the Terrified, or is it anyway, the other term like in Argent whatever. I forget, it's got starts with an A, right? That's how I first seen it. I had a Blu-ray of that from God, man, it's probably picked it up 5 years ago. And I was such a big fan. I think that movie is actually maybe better because I like how small of a setting that is, and I
Hmm.
feel like it's got so many other stories, almost like an anthology, kind of built into this one block. But yeah, I was definitely a huge fan of Terrified, not Terrifier first. He was on my radar for sure. I showed it to everybody. So you gotta watch this movie, dude.
I can't help but
Excellent.
wonder like what he has next because I mean, at
For
least
sure.
between these two movies, I would say he's two for two.
Oh,
And
oh yeah.
and to get maybe like a follow up to this film, not necessarily like a sequel, but whatever he's coming up with next, I'm genuinely curious because it's a very original voice in horror, and obviously you love to see that. Um, did you have a favorite death scene?
Um, it, I mean, not to be morbid, but I think that the death scene where the mom is like got the kid and she's walking and just pulling the brains out, because you assume that the kid's still alive when he leaves because he's telling the mom I'm cold and she kind of caresses him. I feel like she almost killed him when she jumps off the ledge. And
Hmm.
then, we catch up to her later and she's walking all stilted. And that's a death scene. She's just like pulling. I was like, that is so intense, dude. And then probably the axe scene in the beginning. It's crazy.
Gnarly. It's funny because I remember, not on purpose, but I remember seeing this and The Sadness around the same time,
Oh
and I was just like, dude, I feel so down after seeing these movies.
dude.
I'm at like an all time low.
I watched The
Um,
Sadness on a flight to New Orleans, which means my
oh
people that
God,
sat next to me watched The Sadness on a flight to New Orleans, and I was getting some looks, man. 'Cause there's a lot of
I
brutal
can't
death.
even imagine trying to explain that to somebody if I'm being
Yeah,
honest.
it's like it's
Um,
not me.
let's see. Okay, so the film's ending. Did it leave you wanting more, or did you feel like you were satisfied with how it kind of concluded?
Well, so true story. I just watched it today again, and after it was over, I immediately put on some Sports Center or whatever because it's like that's such a downer, man. I was like, I don't. there's nobody home. I took the day off because I knew the Seahawks were going to win the Super Bowl. So I just wanted to kind of relax today. So I'm watching it, and I'm like looking at my dog. He's like, "You okay, dude? That affect you?" Dolby
Yeah, how
Atmos.
are you feeling?
I feel great, but the movie itself was, it's eerie the way that it ends. It doesn't give you any sort of like the payoff is there's a new demon and it's coming for you, right? So it was pretty low. You don't feel good.
Would you want to see this expanded in a sequel?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
I
hard.
think
I'm like torn between it because I think sometimes like less is
what about a
more.
prequel? What about a prequel? So we get the story of how it came to be, because it almost feels like they're on an island the way they keep talking about everything. Maybe not a sequel, but a prequel I think would be cool to explain. At the same time, though, then, like you said,
I think I would take the sequel. Reason being that I almost, again, there's some prequels, the few and far between, but prequels that I feel like can kind of over convolute like how we got to the original film or answers too much. I'd almost rather just leave it alone. And for whatever the sequel has to offer, maybe it's in a different town, maybe it's in a different part of the country, and we're
sure.
focusing on completely different characters that are still basically, afflicted by this form of possession. I think I'd probably rather go in that direction just because I think it would be more
Keep it ambiguous, yeah.
yeah, and you would have more possibilities for what you could do with it, I think, in the long run.
Just thinking about it's fun. Like I'm having a blast talking about this movie, and we're like, hey man, we can put, it'd be cool if they could tie it into some other characters, right? Like their children is being affected, and we got to go find it in a different part of the world. That would be cool.
Well,
I
look,
dig it.
if it's something that is going to be passed down from generation to generation, I can't think of a better way to segue into the other film that we're going to be discussing. And that is none other than Ari Aster's Hereditary.
Look at that steel book, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that steel book,
It was worth the wait.
dude. Sexy.
I
Spin
held
that
out.
thing around, man. Spin that thing
I
around.
held out for this because I love on this side.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
Get the
I
house.
didn't pick it up. I need to get it.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Because when initially came out in 4K, I was sporadically collecting like that. And I don't know what happened to the copy that I had. I didn't want to have, I knew that it was a matter of time between either a new release coming out or maybe A24, which they should have done, is roll out the red carpet for a film like this and given us some nice box set treatment or whatever the case is. And this came first. So I knew I had to finally have this. I picked this up. I couldn't be happier with just aesthetically, it's really cooling. But
have you seen the script to the movie? My buddy got me that for Christmas. They got it at Barnes and Noble, so it's like this big hardbound book. It's super tall,
from
and it's got tons of pictures from
from
A24.
A24.
Yeah,
I don't think I've seen it. I haven't had a chance to pick it up.
it's awesome, super cool.
So what is your relationship with this movie?
This one, if you remember, what year did this come out? Let's go back in time.
Oof.
2019, 2018? I forget.
2018.
2018. So, like a lot of people that are into horror, you could follow the trajectory of this film with the write-ups that were coming from Bloody Disgusting, iHorror. It was getting a lot of smoke. A lot of heat was on this movie saying how it was better than The Exorcist and it was going to, be a grief piece. And so I was really, really excited to see it. Reading those first couple of reviews, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch this. So we went opening night, and I remember thinking when I was walking home, like, I'm never going to be able to forget about this movie. Like, it was that powerful of a film, whether it was the grief or just the end scenes. And like, I love pagan folk horror stuff, anything witchy, anything like that. Rosemary's Baby, like I love all that kind of stuff. So this movie I thought was a masterpiece. Just immediately, I could not wait to watch it again. It kept me up at night. I was so excited to see it.
So I've told this story before. Like I said, I did not see this when it initially came out in theaters, but you know how it is being in the horror community. You hear the buzz. stacking up, and you hear people talking about how good this movie is, all that, right? I remember hearing about this. I waited till it came out in 4K. Eventually, I ended up picking it up, and I at that time I had just moved into a new house, and I remember I don't know why I thought this was a good idea. I threw this movie on maybe midnight, 12:30 at night. I throw this
Whoa.
on. I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I'll watch this. I've seen a lot of horror movies. What's the worst that could happen? I remember being so dialed into this movie, and I'm listening around. I'm the only person in the house at that point,
Oh man.
and it had me on 11. I'm just listening to all the creaks in the house. You know how it is. Like, you move into a new place that's already bad enough as is, but on top of that, it's like, dude, my senses were so over heightened after watching this movie. You know, but what an experience! I wouldn't trade that for anything. It scared the shit out of me when it happened, but to look back on it with very fond memories. And like I said, eventually I was able to see it in IMAX, which was a very different experience. But um,
There
we're
was a cool story really quick.
yeah.
That opening night that we went, at this theater, they'll bring you beer. Like, you just order it from your phone, and they'll kind of, a staff will bring you a beer and stuff. And when she goes up on the ceiling by the attic and starts hitting that thing and slices her neck, somebody's beer, like, the jump scare there was so loud that someone dropped their beer, and it was a bottle, and you could hear it going all the way down. People were gasping at that scene. Like, yeah.
It stays with you for a long time. That entire movie. I don't know where to begin on this one because
We need like 2 hours for this one. This is a big movie.
Okay, before we get into this, did you feel like which of these films had like a more of a lasting impact on you? Would you say it was the first film we talked about or Hereditary?
It's Hereditary. I was just as excited though to see When Evil Lurks because being in the space and loving horror, like, and just loving his first film. I was really excited for that, but not to take anything away from When Evil Lurks, but Hereditary was like a moment in time when you seen that in the theater. Like, oh my god, dude.
Well, I think that Hereditary has a little more rewatchability for me. There's a lot of things that if you watch closely, there is a lot of details in this film that on first watch it is so easy to miss.
100%.
And I think to get a film like this, and then we get Midsummer shortly thereafter, is like a 1-2 punch in much different, like very, very different tones and very different ways, but kind of like an overarching theme with almost like the cult like vibe to each of them. I think
Did you like Midsummer, like, on your first watch, knowing that it was Ari Aster? And because I went to the same theater and watched that the same way, hoping for the same experience. I've come around to love that movie, but it took like getting the flu and watching it a few times to be like, this is a great movie. But on first blush, I was like, it's not Hereditary.
it's not. And I think it's like two sides of the same coin where I feel like that is a movie that I feel like took a little bit more time to grow on me. Whereas with this, for at least what I'm looking for in a horror film, this felt like it checked all the boxes. It felt like it was a mainstay in modern horror. And I would argue this is probably one of the best horror films I've seen the last decade.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's up there. I don't know what else that I would be able to compare it to, but
There's not a lot. The Dark and the Wicked comes up in my brain as one that I tell people to watch, for having the same kind of dread. But Hereditary is so relatable. We're going to talk about grief, I'm sure, and depression and like how this can affect you. But Hereditary, everybody has a family for the most part, right? Love them or hate them, and you have to deal with what's passed down. There's so many layers to this movie. So instant rewatchability. And if you're going into it thinking this is the scariest movie of all time, and you're one of those kind of people that's like, it's not going to be scary, and you don't pick up on all those little details you were talking about, then yeah, like, you're going to be disappointed if it's not The Exorcist. It's not something that you find scary, because scary is subjective. I think that it's the dread. It's hard to beat that in the last 20 years.
Oh, yeah. It's and what I think is so fascinating, kind of going back to what you had mentioned, I mean, you are dealing with families in very different tones. There's this overarching theme of dread and just gloom and despair in much different ways. For where evil lurks, that's more the possession side of things, and this is almost like something different entirely. Um, well, Ari Aster, overall, like, where are you at for his films? Do you like most of the films that he's put out, or?
I think that he probably got bored after making something like Hereditary. I feel like he keeps kind of trying to like up the ante. Where, as a fan of Hereditary and Midsummer now, I thought that Beau was Afraid, right? That was his third.
Mhm.
Um, it did not hit the same way. I still think I think if you struggle from anxiety, or you're a nervous person, I mean, there's a lot of things that people could probably take from that movie. That's not me, but I still thought it was very, I mean, it's a pretty ambitious film for sure. So
Yeah.
um, I think he keeps kind of trying to raise the bar. And sometimes I think if he could just, you know, I don't know. It's hard to recapture that Hereditary magic, maybe too.
I Before we get started, I have to ask you, did you ever see The Strange Thing About the Johnsons, the short horror film that he did?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. For any of you guys listening, Josh, even for you, I highly implore that you check that out because it is so out there. And I remember seeing it after I'd seen some of his other films. Just trust me on this. It is not
29 minutes.
is not a very comfortable watch. Is very weird. But obviously he became more established with Hereditary, Midsummer, and in the opening scene to this film, did it immediately freak you out in Hereditary?
Which part?
I would say, just kind of establishing. We obviously know that the grandmother has passed at this point, and just kind of, I would say more of the setup side of things, and just kind of something just feels off from the get go with this, and just how the family's coping with the grief in much different ways.
Yeah, I think the beginning, it was more kind of like, okay, this is going to be different, like buckle your seatbelt kind of moment. I don't
Mhm.
know if creeped out's the right word, but I was intrigued for sure, like right away.
So I think what the one thing that I just remember very early on that I thought was just very interesting, because it's like little like tidbits that are sprinkled in throughout the film that I think Ari Aster does a really great job at, is he initially, Steve, played by Gabriel Byrne, gets a phone call saying that there was perpetrators that had desecrated the grandmother's gravesite, and he doesn't say anything about it to Annie, who is played by Toni Collette, and something's off. It just seems kind of weird. Like, why would anyone be messing, especially with an older woman's grave like
It's
that?
odd. It's very odd.
Very weird. And I have to point out something that works on so many levels for this film. Colin Stetson doing the score for it just dials this up to a whole nother level. It's uncomfortable. I can, even just talking about it, I can just kind of hear like the, parts of the score in my head.
Mhm.
Very, very creepy. And we've got Toni Collette. She plays Annie. So she's a miniature artist. We've got Gabriel Byrne, who plays Steve. He's a psychiatrist and Annie's husband. Alex Wolff plays Peter, who's their son. Millie Shapiro is Charlie, who's their daughter. Yeah, she has a thing with birds. It's a little weird.
It's bizarre.
Very bizarre. And you can tell there's just something, like, just across the board, there's something off with this family. And
Beautiful, beautiful setting, right? The house is amazing. Are they in
oh yeah.
Colorado?
Yeah.
You're just like, oh my God, I want to spend time in this place. But you feel isolated and kind of trapped from the very just the crane shots and the way they like intro
Yep.
this movie, you're like, oh, we're stuck for a while.
It's
It's a vibe.
it has a very vast feel. And then as soon as it gets dark out, can you imagine living in that house? It'd be
No,
terrifying.
no.
Especially
You're in the middle
especially
of nowhere.
yeah, especially once we start getting towards the end and you see people like out and about around that house. No, thank you. I'm so
Yeah.
good.
There's like the little kind of tree fort, which is amazing, and it's like kind of far away from the house too. So you're like, yeah, man. It's a vibe for sure.
Did you feel like that there was like a tragic character in the film or like one that you sympathize with?
I mean, you got to feel for Peter, like seems misunderstood, wants to smoke a little dope, right? He's trying to get through his life, and his mom seems a little crazy, and you learn a little bit. I guess Peter's the one that I think I probably feel for Toni Collette's character the most because of how the grandma was, like her mom. Like the more times I watch it, the more I relate with her, and like, oh my god, like you don't get to choose how you're treated, like you can just make the best of it as you grow up. And so, and then I feel for Gabriel Byrne's character too. Like he's just doing the best he can to even put some food on the table. And
Gets lit on fire.
yeah, dude.
Just minding his own business.
Dude, nuts, man.
Poor guy. Yeah, I don't. That's tough because I feel like for Steve, not just because we share a name, but I did sympathize with him because I mean, how do you navigate through something like that? I don't think that just if we were to take this movie as a snapshot of what that family's been dealing with, I think that he's pretty well versed in not only how Annie's been, but then also with her mom. I'm sure there's a certain type of emotional baggage that comes with the grandma.
They keep hinting at that maybe she's been there for a while, like like maybe she lived with them in that room, right? Because she's always in that corner. Like we'll get there too, but
Yeah,
yeah, they hint that there was some really bad familial things that were happening, whether doesn't have to be domestic violence or something like that, but
it's like
Annie did some
psychological.
psychological breakdowns with Annie, and maybe she's his worst client. He's just tired of doing it. Like I feel
Yeah.
for Steve in that way.
Um. Okay, so again, spoilers on this, but we know that there's a very key sequence which jarred me to no end when I remember I initially saw it. So we have a party that Peter gets invited to, and I think by means of a guilt trip from his mom, is forced to basically bring his sister to the party, and
And before that, we're learning that she can't have certain
oh yes,
chocolate bars because she has a peanut allergy, right?
yes, yep. So she yes, so she has an allergy, a severe nut allergy, and so there's a party, and we've got at that point that Peter is trying to, he's obviously trying, at a party, everyone's there trying to make moves, and Charlie has left her, her own, find something to do, and she gets into eating some cake that for some weird reason contains walnuts. And her throat starts closing up, which is a terrifying idea. Either having to deal with that or being in her position.
Especially if
And,
you're under the influence at a party when you're trying to put moves on,
oh my
and
god,
you're
can you
you're
imagine?
responsible for it, right?
Can you imagine smoking and then having to deal with that?
Oh, that worst trip ever, dude.
Yeah,
I
terrible,
told you,
terrible.
no nuts.
Yeah,
Worst cake ever, too.
yeah,
Walnut cake? No.
that sounds terrible.
Keep
And,
going. I'm sorry.
we've got, before we get further, we got Joel joining us. What is up, my guy?
What up, Joel?
Okay, so obviously this flips the night completely upside down. Peter is driving Charlie to the hospital. She's basically gasping for air at that point. It is very tense, anxiety, waves crashing all over, at least us as the audience. And once Charlie leans out the window, Peter swerves on the road. Charlie becomes decapitated by hitting a telephone pole.
It's so jarring and disorienting the whole
Oh,
time. it's showing the tires spinning, like the poles are flying by. You're like, oh my god, he's got to get her home. She's choking to death, man. She can't breathe.
I cannot. I don't know. There's something about that sequence after that happens that he just drives home. I think he just right. He leaves the car in the driveway
The
and then just
body's in
go.
it.
He's in shock and just goes to bed.
And Ari Aster doesn't show us all of the gore. It's just implied because he just lays down, pulls the blanket over him right, and then he wakes up to hearing Tony Collette screaming outside, finding a body with no head. Like,
Oh,
dude,
and to make to make matters worse, we do see the head, and it's covered in what ants.
yeah,
It just
almost like she
basically.
had sugar all over or something.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
honey, it's just weird.
Yeah, it's definitely a scene that stays with you. Um, did you feel like her death haunted you more than the rest of the film?
No, I you feel for Peter because I mean, kids make mistakes, man. You know, he shouldn't have she shouldn't have came to the party with him. She didn't want to go. He's there. He's not wanting to pay attention. Probably doesn't want her to get picked on, so he's trying to do his own thing. And the whole thing was set up to be failed. Like it just wasn't good. Um, I don't know if it was the most effective. Like it was just shocking. You're like, how do you come back from this? You know, because you started a funeral with the grandma and this awkward eulogy. You know, no one's laughing. Like so, you come from a funeral to some weird family dynamics, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, and my sister's head got cut off. I'm a problem. So
Terrible.
brutal.
Um, so obviously this at the well, yeah, at this point this is when things really start to ramp up, and Peter's obviously dealing with the fallout with this. The dad Steve is trying to kind of mediate things amongst the family. Annie's becoming resentful towards Peter, and Annie comes into contact with Joan.
And before that happens, right, she's just wailing. There's those scenes in the bedroom where
Oof.
Steve's kind of like trying to close the blinds and maybe give her a sleeping pill or something. Like it's assumed that this has been going on for a while, and she's just wailing that Charlie scream. That Charlie scream is so chilling, man, and it just happens over and you're like, oh, get me out of this room. It's
It,
bleak. It is
it
so intense, man.
it feels like we're not supposed to be there for any of
No.
this. You know, we're like the fly on the wall to just something horrific that's happening behind closed doors.
And he just kind of moves the camera this way through the door and then establishes the room and then zooms in on like her just hitting the floor just in a pile. Just it's brutal, man. It's so
Sad.
intense. Yeah.
Was there okay? So let me ask you: was there like a scene that made you like flinch or startled you when you saw it first?
I mean, the ending that we're gonna get to definitely did, and it still kind of does, to be honest. Um, I almost just found it, Charlie's like kind of that all the time, and the bird heads and some of that weird stuff is just kind of like unnerving as it keeps happening. You're like, this is really pronounced. Like, you know,
Yeah.
the sound is like, God, what is going on here? The
Well,
way she
especially after
chews
she's
candy
gone
bars.
too. You know.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's bizarre. Like very uncomfortable. I don't know if there's a the ending scene will probably always stick with me the most, but there's tons of stuff that's happening in the room when there's the ghost of the grandma in the corner. Like that thing's
oof.
super intense. Um, yeah.
Did you feel like the super? Okay, so obviously there's supernatural elements to this. Did you feel like that they were a little bit more subtle throughout the film, or at times overwhelming?
I think it was just right. It's a great balance. I could have done for a little bit more probably,
Mm,
but I think it's almost like unfolds like a mystery element too. So if they gave you too much from the beginning, I don't know if you'd be as invested as you are trying to figure out what's going because you're not sure where you're going to go. You're just like, why am I watching this family like collapse like in real time? You shouldn't be there. So yeah, I think it's a really good mix of how they did it with the supernatural. I always want more of that pagan stuff though. I just do.
I know. Because I are there like films that come to mind for you that are, I guess, comparable to Hereditary, and or maybe even to a like a completely different way, but with Where Evil Lurks.
Maybe like, a lot of people probably say Hereditary Kill List, I think, has got like some really interesting kind of like there's a society of people. The Wicker Man comes to mind, that kind of stuff. The Exorcist for like the grief and trying to solve the problem, and for Evil
Hmm.
Lurks, you got that kind of similarity too. But yeah, I think it's very original for sure. There's not a lot of even like things like we need to talk about Kevin with the school stuff. Like that's pretty bleak and brutal as well. But
I don't know why another one that came to mind was like Dead and Buried.
for sure, for sure.
I
I
mean,
just watched
obviously,
that again. Yeah.
very different setting, but I think with the town being in on what's going on and just like the bizarre reveal at the very end. I mean, they're different in, I guess, like the premise, but I think there's kind of like the
Twilight
cult.
Zone. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
No,
Um,
Dead and Buried's a good comp.
and
Sorry, we were talking about she goes to a medium, and then I was just like, we got to talk about
oh yeah, yeah, no,
that
no, it's okay.
scream. You were
It's
like, oh
okay.
my god.
It's terrifying. And then for Where Evil Lurks, are there any like comps that you would have for a film like that? I almost think like
Mm,
Evil Dead a little bit, like maybe like hints of it.
yeah, trying to think of other ones. When you look it up, Terrified comes up because that's his first film. Yeah, The Dark and the Wicked kind of reminds me of that bleakness, where it's the farm and the animals are like acting strange. Oh,
I
not a
know,
ton.
I know for just doing a quick search, but I know that Ari Aster had mentioned The Shining as
For
one
sure.
example. And I know we talked about Rosemary's Baby, and then just checking
Yeah,
out
just the
what.
way he's panning through the hotel, similar to how they're like building the set piece of the room. You know, there's a lot of similarities there, and just the isolation of the overlook and then Annie's house. It's like, God.
Interesting. I think, I mean, we talked about The Exorcist and Poltergeist as uh, comparable movies for When Evil Lurks. They even mentioned like Halloween and Friday the 13th, which I don't know if I would really put that in the same camp, but I could see there being some influence to a certain extent.
I mean, even something like Oddity.
Hmm.
There's movies like that. Sator, the Forest movie, where there's the kind of grandma losing her mind and talking about this demon. For Hereditary, I think Sator would be a good.
It's a great option. So,
Excellent.
where are you at on Joan?
Joan was like the first time you feel like there's some peace in a movie, especially
Is
this
there?
movie. I feel like she's so welcoming, because you're not going to an AA meeting, but Annie's going to grief counseling, and then
Yeah.
she meets Joan, and when Joan's talking about her kid, it's like the best of times and the worst of times because she's showing her like the power, if you will, how to kind of talk to him, and she's like, oh, it's okay, it's relatable, like you got someone in me, but then it goes way too far. But I love Joan's character. Like that's the first time there's a little bit of like, oh, there's hope here.
She's
But
out there
it's
for
the walking.
sure.
She's crazy.
Well, okay, but
She's
here's the
so
thing.
welcoming.
It is, but she presents it almost, it's almost like I got like some Spielberg vibes from like how she's initially like we're tapping into this. This is a way to be able to communicate with the dead, and it kind of reminded me of
Spielberg, how what were you thinking?
just kind of like the magical element of, hey, we're talking with the dead, because it doesn't give it to us in like a very like creepy tone. At least that's not how I initially took it, until obviously things kind of get out of control with it. But initially, I mean, she's trying to sell Annie on this, and it seems very like, oh, okay, like you can communicate with the dead. Oh, maybe this is like a way for her to find peace. And it's not. It's definitely not. You're opening the door up to something that you have no clue what's like what's about to unfold.
100%. She kind of reminds me of the medium, not what's her name from Poltergeist, where when the family they first sit down and they're overwhelmed, and the lady's like, "It's okay to be afraid," and she kind of
Hmm.
shares like a sip of
Yes.
the flask with her.
Yeah.
It feels like there's someone that just can pantomime what you're going through. Joan has that feel where she's going to be comforting for Annie, but as the audience, we know that something's going to go wrong. Like,
God. It's not good. um, all right, so we know that they start, getting closer, and they start, trying to perform seances, and um, at that point, Annie convinces, or she's trying to convince her husband and Peter to, witness it. So we get the objects that are moving. And what I noticed about this, it wasn't as, this is where I feel like it started to get darker. It
And
felt
Peter's
like,
catatonic for sure. Like
yeah, oh
while this
yeah,
is happening, he's
they're not,
lost his mind
they're not
in
about it.
school, everywhere.
They're not about it at all. Steve is over here thinking like my wife's out of her mind. Peter's just in shock while they're doing this, and obviously Joan has a very different outlook compared to either of them. Um, but things start getting really weird when Annie starts, speaking in Charlie's voice. That freaked me out. I remember,
Yeah, it's weird.
first time seeing that, very
Is that around?
uncomfortable.
They're like at the table, right? And she's like
Yep.
lighting things and trying to introduce them how to communicate with her. And yeah, that's odd. And you can kind of see it as they're panning around the room, and Gabriel Byrne's character and Peter's just like, should we call somebody? Like,
Yeah. What do you
having him be
do?
the psychiatrist is like, no, we're trapped with the crazy in here. Like, that's a brilliant move to keep him in the house, because if he can't figure it out, then it's like there's no medical stuff you can really do. We tried dosing her to get her to sleep, and now she's talking like Charlie. It's a problem.
It's almost a very nightmare inducing sequence because it just sounds so unnatural when she starts talking like Charlie. And it isn't until he splashes water on her to, like, kind of get her to come out from, that state that she's in. Um Man. So we know that the supernatural forces start haunting Peter at that point, and I feel like that this is really when it starts to amp up. It becomes apparent that I feel like they've opened the door to something that they can't put back in.
Yeah,
Uh,
and you can see Tony Collette's character starting to find things of her mom's, going up to the attic and going through her old books and diaries, and being introduced to this cult, I guess, or this demon payment that she's trying to come to terms with. Like, what was this here the whole time? Is that why? And so then you start to kind of put the pieces together. Like, okay, this is going to be a problem.
yeah. Well, and then we kind of, we obviously know that um the grandma had a role in this coven, um and Joan has a connection with her, right? It is really creepy. The pictures that Annie starts discovering, it's very unsettling. It's just like, what is this cult doing?
That photo where she's laying in the casket, and they're like dropping coins on her or
Yep.
whatever, like they're sacrificing things to her. And there's also like nepotism going on, and maybe even Munchausen stuff happening to Charlie. And Annie's having a hard time trying to cope with the fact that she couldn't even like breastfeed or take care of her kid. She was just taken away from her. And the more you learn, you're like, this is fucking crazy, dude.
um so we become more familiar that, Payman is obviously a demon and is looking to inhabit a male host. So um we get to a point where Annie finds her mother's headless corpse in the attic. Oh man, it is so,
That's a horror movie by itself. Like, that's
yeah.
just a horror movie.
I
Old
mean,
lady, old lady, headless in the attic.
isn't it bad enough just going to the attic to begin with? Can you imagine just you're waltzing your way up there and that's what you stumble on, and like the flies and the weird smells?
Oh man, it's like various stages of decomposition. Like,
Uh,
dude, it's a horror movie.
okay, so we know that Peter's becoming afflicted by, the demons basically at that point, and we get the scene where Joan basically attempts to expel his spirit from his body for payment. And there's a sequence where he's like slamming his head on the desk. I mean, things just keep getting worse and worse for the family, especially with Peter, because we know that he's now become a target. Um,
It's
I
kind of like a
mean,
fever dream. Like you're inside his head, like this is happening. It's causing him to spiral, right? Like,
well, even when he looks at his reflection, there's like this. I mean, you know, it's obviously not. I mean, it is
right.
him, but it's not him. And this smirk, and it's like, dude, that is so creepy. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah, it's
So
subtle. It's subtle, just unraveling, and then it's stacking these crazy things just over and over, and you're like, oh my god, just the tension of this movie, dude.
now, what about the fireplace scene between Annie and Steve?
Perfection. Like it's iconic now. I think it's going to go down as, you know, I'm a huge. The Shining is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's not going to be as important as Jack Nicholson's reveal that here's Johnny in The Shining, but it's going to be when people think about Hereditary. That's probably going to be the scene that's like forever used when you're talking about scariest movie of the 2000 whatever's, right? I feel like that's going to be just an iconic landmark moment for people that are discovering this, that are growing up. Like that's the scene in that movie.
That specific shot of him on fire.
And just her face when she's like
Yes.
that whole moment when she's like, I can't put him out, the book's on fire, he's on fire, and then her like recoiling horror with her face all contorted, just like that's the scene.
I think I always, when I think of this movie, I think of that sequence and then the tree house. Just the tree house and the body floating up, like on up to the treehouse. It's very just bizarre, and the visuals are definitely striking for sure.
Super unsettling.
Okay, so we obviously, by that point, this is when I would say, I mean, we really start getting to the back end of the film, and it just all goes to hell. You've got, as soon as the sun goes down and we see the darkness around the house, we see the coven members that are all swarming around the house. Oh god, it's so creepy. Even just like there's like little appearances of stuff. If you're not looking in the shadows, there's like some truly bizarre stuff that's placed in there, which some of it I didn't notice until I rewatched the film.
And it's super dark, so you're kind of looking in the shadows, kind of like a Where's Waldo for people crawling on ceilings, kind of Exorcist 3 like, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's shadows and things that are happening in corners that it's super bizarre. It's just, that's kind of the term for it. But
and let's see, we got Holy Smokes joining us. What is going on?
someone else, Acres of Movie, said Toni Collette.
Oh,
Similar to Vera Farmiga for the role.
Vera
I think,
Farmiga from The Conjuring.
yeah, she would probably do a great job of that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's got range. I mean, obviously, you've seen it in The Conjuring, you've seen her in The Departed. Much different role, obviously.
Much different. Bates
Yeah,
Motel, she's excellent.
yeah. I would say, I mean, she's very well versed. I could have definitely seen her in the role. And then we got Toni Collette all the way back at The Sixth Sense. Previous roles.
Yeah, did you watch her in The Staircase, the HBO?
I don't know if I saw that.
It's not the documentary, but it's based on the story. But yeah, she's
Okay.
amazing. Watch The Staircase with her. It's like 7 or 8 episodes. Perfection.
I just recently watched her. It was like right around Thanksgiving. I saw her Knives Out. Very, very, very different role of what she's playing there. But
Knives Out, Krampus, she's in.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, that's right. I saw her in that right around Christmas. So do you think that there was like one single individual that was responsible for the family's fate before we get to the ending?
So it kind of implies that maybe the grandma had kind of like a little cabal going, or a coven.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start to think, is Joan the one that was instructed to come to Annie and show her how to do this, because we need to
Get her to believe, basically.
get her to believe. And then once we have her with that, we can do whatever we want with her.
Do you think that there was like some resistance on Annie's part for following in the footsteps of her mom?
Yeah, I think that's what we're kind of. I feel like we're led that way as the audience to like feel sympathetic towards her and question everything that we're seeing, and we're just taking Annie at face value because she's so affected by whatever happened with her grandma. So it makes you feel like you have to believe her because she's
Mhm.
really our only narrator at that time, and her family's messed up, and so you feel like it probably was the grandma the whole time. You're like, oh, something's wrong here.
And did you feel like that there was anything like as far as foreshadowing, maybe key sequences, scenes, moments that you missed the first time you were watching it?
Yeah, I think in the funeral scene, I feel like there was stuff that I should have been paying attention to. And then I didn't really pick up that maybe she was living in the house and they had a big falling out when Charlie was a kid. Because based on how Annie was acting and her feelings at the funeral and delivering the eulogy, you feel like she distanced herself from her mom her whole life. But when you go into that room and she's kind of like in the shadow, I didn't pick up on that opening night. I just totally went over my head. I was like, okay, there was other problems. Because how would she be the one taking care of Charlie unless she was with her all the time? And I started to kind of put the pieces together in a different way that maybe there was more to this story than what Tony Collette's saying as well.
Yeah.
Because Peter hints at her having like the fire, like pouring the gasoline on him, and maybe wanting to have a mental breakdown. So then you start to wonder if you can trust what she said is the only person giving you information. You're like, maybe she, yeah, yeah,
It's almost like an unreliable narrator for
for
what
sure.
like the
It does
information
that
we're getting,
sound.
you know?
Yeah,
Um okay, so we know that obviously at this point Annie is not in a good place, and Peter wakes up, he finds, Steve, his dad, is, his charred corpse, and that notices some of the coven members have gotten into the home. We get the scene where, possessed Annie is chasing him through the house, which is fucking terrifying.
terrifying.
Um
There's no light in the house. It's just like this weird blues and blacks and grays,
it's
just shadow world.
oh my god. So he eventually ends up in the attic. And we get the sequence where Annie is basically floating there with like was it the piano wire that she's using,
Yeah,
and just sawing her head off. And it's the most uncomfortable scene to sit through. The sound is just terrible. Um, what did you think of that when that was going on?
it's so there's so much buildup, man. While she's kind of like floating and trying to catch him, you're just the music's building and it's like like this almost kind of like psycho string stuff is going on and the cellos are cutting and you're just like, what in the literal? Yeah, dude. Still unnerves me to this day when I watch it. I'm like,
Oh
I
god.
hate that part. I love the movie. It's one of my favorite movies, but that it takes a piece of you every time you watch it. You're like, I'm stuck. I can't get away from this.
You
It's
have to be in the
awesome.
right mindset to watch something like this.
You do.
It's
It
not
never gets easier.
like a Halloween or The Shining where I can throw that on whenever and be okay with it.
No,
Um, and at this point, Peter jumps out the window, crashes through the window, and then next thing you know, we think that basically seemingly to his death, we get a glowing orb that revives him, and this is when we have like the treehouse sequence. So we have
music
all the
changes.
music definitely changes. We have everyone there. They're all, bowing to Peter. He's got the
It's
crown
candles
on.
going. Total
Yes.
rituals. You're just like,
Um, it is really strange. It takes a very innocent and seemingly, I mean, there should be that childlike innocence that comes with the treehouse setting, and yet this basically completely contorts that in a way that this is where they're basically holding, a cult ceremony.
right.
Um, and we know that at this point the transformation has been completed. That Paimon is essentially now host, or he's Peter's the host to Paimon, and that's how that's what we're left with. Thanks, Ari
It's
Aster.
it's a real bright ending.
Yeah.
It
Um,
doesn't get
so I think we could probably agree, and maybe we might get some different perspectives on this, but I think that there's like a little bit more to chew on with Hereditary. I think when Evil Lurks, or I mean, not when Evil, yeah, when Evil Lurks, that is more at face value with everything. So, what do you think? I mean, I felt like this was a pretty good double feature.
This is an excellent double feature. If you're a horror fan, if you haven't seen either of these movies, man, um, there's not a lot of foreign films to recommend above When Evil Lurks. So if you're not into those, I think that that is a really good starting point. And Hereditary, it's got a lot of hype. It's got a lot of tradition in it already for only being 7, 8 years old, whatever it is, and it holds up. It for people that love psychological terror and grief and depression. This is a
Who doesn't
great
love
way.
depression?
This is a great double feature,
Yeah.
man. Um, can't really, I don't know what you put next, unless you were going to compare The Exorcist with Hereditary. That would be the only comp I would say would be,
Yeah.
you know, as
Totally.
effective as something like that. And we could probably talk about other kind of depression movies, but you know,
I would love to, and even throwing it out there to anyone listening, but if you guys have suggestions for other double features that we could potentially cover, would love to hear what you guys have to offer. I'm sure Josh and I will come up with other options, but that wraps it up for our first double feature that we've got. Um, Josh, where can everyone find you at?
I'm on the Instagram at just Beyond the Grave Media. I think I got a TikTok. I don't use it very often, but once in a while I'll throw a clip on there. And then here on YouTube, Beyond the Grave Media. Yeah.
Hell yeah. And then you guys can find me at After Hours Video on social media all over the place, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, obviously on YouTube. And then we both have codes that you guys can use if you're looking to up your movie collection over at Valoria Video. Josh, what's your promo code? Give the people what
Yeah.
they're looking for.
Yeah. Go to Valoria Video. Tony
Nice.
over there's excellent, and
Hell yeah.
he's got a lot of kind of bizarre, and there's a lot of horror on there, and then he's got a little bit of everything, but he likes kind of the harder to find horror movies, which I really like, and then just different noirs and stuff. And then use my code Beyond the Grave 10, all caps, and then the number 10, save 10% off your first purchase.
Awesome. And then you guys can also, if you guys want to use mine as well, I have After Hours. Hours is abbreviated 10. Take 10% off of any of your orders. So feel free to swing on by. Tony's got a lot of great options. His selection, I feel like, continues to kind of hitting that next level for what he's carrying. So make sure you go check it out and, elevate your movie collection. But that's it for tonight's episode. So be on the lookout. We will most likely have another double feature dropping in the near future, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.